evening, all. Welcome to Fitting Dust. Now, this is the beginning of Fitting Dust. We're going to do a series 3. So we are going to recap some of the fits that have changed. So we're going to do the Gunloggi. So let's get straight into it. This is actually my older fit, but let me explain what you're seeing here. This is running a standard Gunloggi with shield mods and then a plate. So we're running obviously a basic 120mm plate, basic blaster, and you'll probably see that actually majority of the equipment is actually basic. Now let's just very almost cut straight through to it. The Gunloggi is primarily a shield tank, so you want to try and run this with some form of shield mods, obviously. But however, we do have a variant to that in just a moment. But what you can see here is we're running this with a booster, a hardener, and then an extender. So booster, hardener, extender. Very conventional fit. Most tanks you'll find have something similar to this. However, what I have now kind of migrated this to, this is pretty much what I was using when 1.7 came out, is I've moved back to what I guess is the more standard variant, but using much better gear. So in this case, you'll see we're using the complex variant. And this is my current Gunloggi fit. So no frills really, it's just a hardener that has, and again, the difference between basic and complex is the time most of these things take to cool down. So they all do 60% reductions. You can see there, the difference between this and militia is the cooldown period, which is quite important because that's your inability to be active, let's say. So I would strongly recommend that if you run tanking, you do try and put certain mods as more kind of less crap, let's say. With the booster though, I kind of find that that's not so much of an issue. It's really only if you need to use the booster that becomes an issue. However, with the lows, you can see I've used my complex power upgrades there. Now, that's pretty much what I run in my Gunloggi now. I don't run it with a plate, so I'm a bit faster, and it seems to be quite sturdy, let's say. Now, the only issue I have is I can't squeeze then and I'm using the ion cannon. I'm actually using the aurum ones because I've got to get rid of them, and I'm using the Sodoms because I just think that's so funny. As you can see, we've got neutron blasters, which is the advanced variant as well. So when it comes to which gun to use, it really comes down to what you want to do with it. I would probably say that my my Gunloggi fit, I would use my older fit for general matches. Maybe for FW I'd use my better fit. Anyway, we'll come back to that. We then move on to a very conventional railgun fit. This isn't a great fit, so I wouldn't look to replicate this too much. This is more of an aggressive railgun fit, so it's very similar. Booster, hardener, extender, a plate, a complex power grid upgrade, and then a standard railgun. And that's, again, depending on your skills, that's what you'll pretty much be able to kind of wrestle out of the fit. Then we go further down, so I then have the state Gunloggi, which is where we actually won some FW for Caldari, so I actually fit out a state Gunloggi as well. Not even bothered using this yet, it's not really my fit, so I got it just for sort of bragging rights. But chances are it's not a it's not a great fit, but maybe one day it will be. We'll see. But the thing with the state Gunloggis, and the thing with all of the aurum tanks as well, is you can't remove the small turrets yet. That hopefully will come soon. This is a test railgun fit. Now, I don't generally would advise you would use this unless you're redline sniping, and I would probably say try not to redline snipe too much. Redline railgun sniping, I'm sure, is going to get nerfed because it's very, very ridiculously OP. Huge amounts of reward for very little risk, and I think this, try not to do it too much. Seriously, don't be that guy. Be the guy that brings your tank out to have a bit of a fight, not just to run away for the red line whenever you can. But as you can see, it's running an armor hardener here, so a plate and then an armor hardener, so that confuses some people. But we're running then 2 damage mods and a single plate, or rather extender, for the railgun. Don't like this fit, I really don't. And then we've got a HC-130, which is just, again, another aurum variant. Again, you do have to bear in mind that you're sort of lumbered with the turrets they give you, so it's like the standard blueprint suits. You do have to accept that. So it means you can't remove all of the smaller turrets and have a stronger fit, so just bear that a little bit in mind. So that's that kind of fit there. We also have further Gunloggi fits, such as a missile fit here. Now, I mean, I don't use missiles. I don't have the skills for them yet, so I'm only using the militia one. I'm not a fan of them either. I think it's just not my style. But they are pretty good, and I think versus tanks they're quite good indeed. So maybe if you're into it, give it a go. But again, my fits are very standard. Now you can run dual hardeners. Now I think there's a lot of people who run seekers with two shield hardeners, even a plate and maybe an armor hardener as well. I've seen things like this before. And they're quite good. They actually do some considerable damage, so maybe think about that as well. It really does depend what you come up against. So let's have a look at these fits in action. So here we go. This was me in my Gunloggi fit, my basic Gunloggi fit, and I was charging a dude here. So as you can see, look, even with my armor hardener on, he hit me down to about 10% shield, and then I hit my armor, the shield booster at just the right time. But as you can see, the railgun turret was also killing me. So that's a great exercise in maybe that plate. Well, that plate did save my life in this case. Fast forward now to maybe some of the tactics you would use when using a tank. If you use blasters, you're generally more infantry focused. Now I have said in previous videos I generally don't concentrate on infantry, so this is a bit of a difficult one to kind of justify. This was shot, I guess, a while ago, I want to say. But infantry obviously does suffer quite badly to blasters. I mean, blasters are not great against tank killing, so I think you do have to kind of balance that out. What we find works exceptionally well is having a mixture. So we have generally 2 blaster tanks and 1 missile tank. We also have sometimes a railgun, a blaster, and a missile tank as well. And just having that combo is very powerful because the blaster will help take care of AV from an infantry point of view. The railgun keeps red line snipers at bay because we can plink back at them. And the missile turreted tank is really there for the finishing. So there is nothing better than killing a tank than a full salvo of missiles with a damage mod on that missile tank. So definitely consider that as an option as well. So there we go. I think, to be honest, tanking it's a very divisive thing at the moment, but I think it's also a very enjoyable thing at the moment. So I would heartily recommend that if you still are refusing to run a tank fit of any kind, you don't need any skills, it's very cheap, incredibly cheap. Please consider having buying a seeker or a soma and just having a run round with a blaster turret on, with a railgun turret on, and a militia missile swarm, and I think you'll probably have a real good laugh. And if you don't, fair enough, at least you can say you've tried it. But I think if you haven't tried it, give it a go. I think you'll find it's actually not too bad. So there we go. That was my Gunloggi fits. Post in the comments if you have any comments on that. Do you have a better fit? Do you have something that maybe you find works better? I must admit, dual hardener running tanks do me an awful lot of damage, and I generally am only scared of stuff like that. So I think post in the comments what you find is particularly scary. But I hope you enjoyed that, and we would now receive a return to our fittings guide. So please send me your fitting suggestions and we'll try and include them. Hope you enjoyed that. See you next time.